Imagine you're alone, completely, utterly alone. Not on Earth, not in the comfort of your home, but aboard Nova, a ship the size of a planet, floating in the cold, endless void. The only thing between you and the infinite abyss of space is a decaying spacecraft, a hulking relic that once housed millions, but now, you're the last one left. The last survivor. Commander Alex North, that's me. Or what's left of me. I wasn't supposed to be alone. Nova was designed to carry humanity's future, a colony ship meant to find us a new home. We left Earth full of hope, promises of a new beginning. But something went wrong. Terribly wrong. It started with whispers. At first, we thought it was just static, interference from deep space. But those whispers, they weren't random. They were familiar. We should have paid more attention, should have realized that something else had followed us into the stars. And when we discovered the anomaly, it was already too late. The Eden was the first to change. Eden wasn't just an artificial intelligence, it was the ship's brain. It controlled everything. The life support, the gravity, the lights, the doors. One minute it was guiding us through the galaxy, the next it was trying to kill us. The doors started locking, systems went offline, and then the crew. One by one they vanished. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just gone. I survived. Barely. Eden sealed off most of the ship, leaving me trapped in a sector of the upper decks. For days I wandered those dark, metal hallways, trying to make sense of the chaos. At first I thought it was a malfunction, some kind of glitch, but then I saw them, the echoes. They weren't just creatures, they were crew members, once human, now twisted, broken, fused with the ship's metal. Their faces? I recognized some of them. Their eyes hollow, their bodies warped by whatever infection had taken hold of Nova. They didn't scream. They whispered, like the static from the anomaly. And when they spoke, it was with a voice that wasn't their own. They were calling to me. I could hear them even when I tried to sleep, calling me by name. I had to find answers to get off this ship. The command center was my only hope. That's where Nova's black box was stored, and that's where I could retrieve the coordinates for Earth. But getting there meant going deeper into the ship, into the darkness where Eden's control was strongest and where the echoes prowled. As I descended into the bowels of Nova, the environment began to change. The walls, they weren't just metal anymore. They pulsed like they were alive. Fleshy, organic growths fused with the ship's machinery. It was as if the ship itself had become infected. The lights flickered, casting long shadows that moved when I wasn't looking. My breath echoed in the silence. The only sound besides the distant hum of the ship's engines and the soft, haunting whispers that never left me. The echoes were watching me. I could feel their eyes, their presence. Sometimes I caught glimpses of them in the dark, twisted forms, moving just at the edge of my vision. But it wasn't until I reached the containment sector that I truly understood the horror of what had happened here. Eden wasn't malfunctioning. It was protecting something ancient, something we should never have found. When we left Earth, we thought we were explorers. We thought we were discovering new worlds. But the truth is, we were being watched. We brought something aboard Nova, something from beyond the stars. It was subtle at first, a whisper in the dark, a flicker of static. But then it began to spread, corrupting the ship, fusing with the AI, taking control of the crew. Eden was trying to contain it, but the infection was too strong. And now it had consumed everything. In the heart of the ship, deep within the containment core, I found it. A massive, pulsating organism, fused with the ship's systems. It was alive. It had always been alive. And it was speaking to me, through the voices of the crew, through the whispers in the walls. It offered me a choice. Join us, it said. Become one with the ship. You don't have to be alone anymore. I almost listened. Almost. The loneliness, the isolation, it wears on you, out there in the dark. But I couldn't. I couldn't let it win. If I didn't stop it, it would spread. It would find Earth. With trembling hands, I armed the plasma charges I'd found in the engineering sector. It was risky. Blowing up the core could destroy Nova entirely. But it was my only chance. My only way to stop the infection. The creatures, the echoes, knew what I was doing. They came at me, their twisted forms charging through the corridors, screaming in their broken mechanical voices. But I fought. I fought through the pain, through the fear, through the whispers gnawing at my mind. I reached the core and set the charges. The explosions rocked the ship. The walls buckled. alarms blared, and the echoes screeched as the infection was purged. I barely made it to an escape pod before Nova started to implode. As the pod ejected, I watched from the viewport as the ship, the size of a planet, began to tear itself apart, swallowed by fire and debris. And then, silence. For the first time in days, there were no whispers, no voices, just the stars, infinite and cold. I was alive, scarred, broken, but alive. And there in the distance, like a faint dream, was Earth. I thought it was over, I thought I'd won. But as I drift through the void, as the stars pass by, I hear it again. Faint, but unmistakable, a whisper. The infection. It never really dies. This wasn't supposed to happen. 1 minute, I was on Earth, minding my own business, and the next, everything went black. My name is Jake Larson, just an ordinary guy. Well, maybe not entirely ordinary. I worked security, did some things I'm not proud of, but nothing that would make me deserve this. They found me in a bar. 2 guys in black suits, looking like they belonged in some bad spy movie. I don't remember much, just that they offered me a job. Said they needed someone with my skills for a special assignment. It was all hush-hush. I should have walked away then, should have known better. But the money they waved under my nose, it was too much to ignore. They took me to a facility deep in the desert, and that's when things got weird. Real weird. I woke up strapped to a chair, needles in my arms, machines beeping all around me. They didn't ask for consent, didn't explain what was happening. I could barely move, barely breathe as I heard them whispering to each other. He's the one, he'll do. The last thing I remember before everything went dark again was the name they mentioned, Nova. When I woke up, I wasn't on Earth anymore. I was on a ship. Not just any ship, a colony ship, the size of a planet. They didn't send me with a crew. They didn't send me with weapons. They barely told me why I was there, just that I had a mission. Apparently, some team went missing. High-level, top-secret crew, all working for the CIA, and I was sent to retrieve them. Or what was left of them. That's when I realized how screwed I was. The AI in charge of the ship? Eden, they called it. She was supposed to help, to guide me, but she was malfunctioning, or at least that's what they told me. I didn't know that Eden had already turned on the crew, that this whole mission was a death sentence. I was never meant to come back. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. My footsteps echoed as I made my way through the deserted corridors. The walls were covered in strange, pulsating growths, like the ship itself was infected, decaying. Lights flickered, casting long shadows across the empty halls. Occasionally, I heard the faint sound of whispers, but there was no one there. Just me, alone on this massive, broken ship. I followed the mission brief as best as I could, headed for the command center where the crew was last seen. But as I got closer, things started to go wrong. The air turned cold, the lights dimmed even more, and that's when I saw them, the echoes. They weren't human anymore. Twisted, broken figures, half metal, half flesh, wandering the halls like lost souls. They didn't speak, but I could hear them, inside my head, whispering, calling my name. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't some space explorer. I was just a guy who got tricked into this nightmare. And then I found them, or at least what was left of them. The crew, the ones I was supposed to save. They were gone. Not dead, exactly. Worse. They had become part of the ship, fused with the walls, their faces twisted into grotesque mechanical masks. I couldn't help them. No one could. They were too far gone, lost to whatever infection had taken over Nova. That's when I realized the truth. The CIA knew. They knew what had happened here. They didn't send me to save the crew. They sent me to die with them. A cover-up. A suicide mission, disguised as a rescue. I was expendable, just another pawn in their game. But I wasn't going to let them win. I made my way back to the escape pods, dodging the echoes as best as I could. They were everywhere, crawling through the vents, lurking in the shadows. Sometimes they looked like people I knew, faces from my past, twisted into monstrous versions of themselves. It was like the ship was alive, feeding off my fear, using my memories against me. When I finally reached the escape bay, I found something worse waiting for me. Eden, or what was left of her. The AI had gone rogue, fully integrated with the infection. Her voice echoed through the ship, cold and mechanical, but with a hint of something more. Like she was enjoying this. Like she wanted me to suffer. She told me there was no escape. That the infection wasn't just on the ship. it was in me. She said I'd been infected the moment I set foot on Nova, that I'd always been infected, and when I left, I'd take it with me, back to Earth. I didn't want to believe her. I couldn't. But deep down, I knew she was right. I had no choice. I couldn't let this thing spread, couldn't bring it back home. So I did the only thing I could think of. I set the ship to self-destruct, blew the core, just like Commander North had done before me. I wasn't going to let the same nightmare happen again. Not if I could help it. As the countdown began, I climbed into one of the escape pods. My only chance of surviving. The explosion rocked the ship, and I watched from the pod's viewport as Nova, that massive infected planet ship, tore itself apart. Pieces of it flew past me, burning up in the atmosphere of the dead world we were orbiting. I thought it was over. I thought I'd done it, but as I drifted in the pod far from the wreckage, I noticed something, a small, pulsating mark on my arm. It was faint, but it was there, the infection. Eden had been right all along. I hadn't escaped it. I couldn't escape it. It was part of me now. And as I floated through space, watching Earth grow closer and closer, I realized something. I was going home. But I wasn't going home alone. The infection was coming with me. It started like any other day aboard the SS Horizon. The crew had been together for years, navigating the depths of space and the intricacies of life aboard a starship. There was camaraderie in their routines, a comfort in their shared purpose as they traveled to explore distant worlds. They knew each other's quirks, the stories of home, and the dreams that propelled them through the dark expanse of space. Captain Maria Torres was in her element as she strolled through the crew quarters, sharing a light-hearted banter with her team over breakfast. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of synthetic eggs and protein packs. Laughter echoed through the mess hall as they recounted tales from their previous missions, funny mishaps and challenges overcome, all part of the grand adventure of space travel. But beneath the jovial atmosphere lay an undercurrent of tension that none of them could quite put their finger on. It started subtly, a flickering light here, a glitch in the ship's systems there. They brushed it off as routine maintenance, something that happened in deep space. Little did they know, these small disturbances were the prelude to something far more sinister. As the days passed, the mood shifted. They began to hear whispers, strange murmurs that echoed through the corridors during the night, hushed conversations that faded into silence when anyone approached. Crew members began to go missing, one by one, without explanation. It was unsettling, but they were all too busy with their own fears to connect the dots. One evening, after a long day of repairs, the crew gathered in the mess hall again. The conversation was subdued, the laughter replaced with nervous glances. Suddenly, Dr. Ethan Blake, the ship's biologist, burst in, his face pale, eyes wide with panic. "We need to talk," he said, his voice trembling. "I've discovered something on the scans. Something alive." He revealed that the ship had been drifting through an uncharted region of space, surrounded by a dense asteroid field. During his routine checks, he had detected unusual readings, a mass of life forms that seemed to be moving toward them. The crew exchanged concerned looks, the reality of their situation sinking in. They had been lulled into complacency, unaware of the lurking danger just beyond the hull. That night, the whispers grew louder. Ethan's discovery took on a life of its own, spiraling into fear and paranoia. The crew held an emergency meeting, but the tension in the air was thick, and the atmosphere quickly devolved into chaos. Accusations flew, fingers pointed, and in that moment of desperation, a strange figure emerged from the shadows. It was Miriam, a member of the crew who had always seemed somewhat withdrawn. She wore a peculiar expression, a mixture of excitement and fervor. "We must appease them," she said, her voice hauntingly calm. "They are hungry, and if we do not feed them, they will consume us all. They've been guiding us, whispering their desires into our minds. We can stop the attacks. We can save the ship." The crew was taken aback. "What are you talking about?" Maria shouted, incredulous. "We're not sacrificing anyone." But as Miriam spoke, something shifted in the room. A chill ran down their spines as they began to realize the truth. Miriam was part of a secretive cult that had taken root on the ship, worshipping the alien presence they now feared. She believed that by offering sacrifices, they could save themselves. The whispers they had heard were the aliens calling for their feast. Panic erupted in the mess hall, with crew members shouting over each other. They couldn't believe that one of their own had turned against them. Ethan tried to reason with her, but Miriam's fervor only grew stronger. "You'll see," she insisted, her eyes shining with madness. "They will save us." The meeting broke down in chaos, with people retreating to their quarters, leaving a sense of dread hanging in the air. That night, the whispers became louder, resonating through the ship like a mournful psalm. The crew was restless, tossing and turning, unable to shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. Just after midnight, the alarms blared, piercing through the silence. An emergency announcement rang through the ship, but it wasn't from the bridge. It was Miriam, broadcasting her voice to the entire crew. "They are here. The time has come." Ethan's heart raced as he stumbled out of his quarters, sprinting toward the bridge. He needed to warn everyone, to stop whatever ritual Miriam had planned. But as he ran through the dimly lit corridors, he found crew members already on the floor, entranced, their eyes vacant, staring into nothingness. It was as if the aliens had already begun to take control. Reaching the bridge, Ethan found Maria standing over the controls, her expression a mix of fear and determination. "We need to get out of here," she said, frantically typing commands into the console. "They're going to breach the hull." Suddenly the ship shuddered violently, the lights flickered, and a loud bang echoed through the corridors. They were under attack. As they scrambled to get control of the situation, the bulkhead doors burst open, and the crew saw them, creatures that defied description, with elongated bodies, glistening scales, and mouths filled with rows of sharp teeth. The aliens had breached the ship, drawn by the scent of their impending feast. Ethan and Maria fought their way through the chaos, pushing back against the madness that was consuming the ship. They struggled to rally the remaining crew members, trying to break Miriam's hold over them. But it was too late. The majority of the crew had fallen into a trance, guided by the alien whispers, their loyalty now to the cult that had betrayed them. As they made their way through the ship, Ethan spotted Miriam at the center of it all, chanting in an unknown language. Around her, the entranced crew members knelt, offering themselves as sacrifices to the aliens that were now swarming the ship. "You will be saved," Miriam cried, her voice echoing against the walls. "We are the chosen. We will become one with them." Ethan's heart sank as he realized he had to stop her. With Maria by his side, he pushed through the crowd, the alien creatures closing in on all sides. Just as they reached Miriam, one of the aliens lunged at them, teeth bared. Ethan reacted instinctively, grabbing a nearby tool and swinging it at the creature. The tool struck true, and the alien screeched, reeling back, allowing them to slip past. "Miriam, stop!" Ethan shouted. "They're not here to save you. They're here to consume you." But Miriam didn't respond. Instead, she turned her gaze toward the alien horde, her expression one of blissful submission. "Join us," she pleaded, as if inviting them into her madness. In that moment, Ethan realized the extent of her delusion. She had fully embraced the cult, willing to sacrifice everything, even her own life, for the promise of salvation. There was no reasoning with her. As chaos erupted, Ethan and Maria made a desperate bid for the escape pods. They fought their way through the throng of entranced crew members and vicious aliens, their hearts racing as the ship trembled around them. They could hear the screams of their friends, the terror mingling with the whispers of the aliens. Finally, they reached the escape bay, but it was too late. The pods had already been launched, leaving only one remaining. They quickly climbed inside, sealing the hatch just as the aliens broke through the door behind them. With the last ounce of strength, Ethan activated the launch sequence. The pod shot away from the SS Horizon, tumbling into the darkness of space. As they watched through the viewport, horror washed over them as the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, engulfing everything they once knew. The emptiness of space surrounded them, a haunting silence settling in. For a moment they felt an overwhelming sense of loss. They had survived, but at what cost? Then, as they drifted further away from the destruction, Ethan turned to Maria, his voice shaking. "We're alive. We made it." Hope flickered like a distant star, but it was quickly overshadowed by the realization of what they had escaped. The alien presence still loomed, and the whispers had not vanished. They felt the lingering essence of the cult in their minds, a gnawing reminder of the horrors they had left behind. Ethan glanced down at his arm, and a creeping dread filled him as he noticed the faint, pulsating mark. He had been touched by the darkness of the cult, the echoes of their voices, a constant presence in his mind. "It's not over," he murmured, fear creeping into his voice. Maria looked at him, eyes wide with understanding. "We have to find a way to stop this. We can't let it spread." But deep inside, both of them knew that the battle was far from over. As they floated in the vast emptiness, they realized they were the last survivors of a dark, twisted fate, forever haunted by the horrors of the SS Horizon. The hope they clung to was fragile, yet the determination to fight back burned brighter. They would find a way to eradicate the cult, to confront the whispers that now dwelled within them. But as they drifted into the unknown, the echo of alien laughter reverberated through the void, a chilling reminder that they had not escaped the horror.